Hello and welcome everyone to our second episode in our Calling Reimagined web series, where we talk about how organizations are reimagining the world of calling, how the industries change, and how companies are adapting to this change. In today's episode, we're joined by Mona Salman. She's the AVP of Digital Workplace Engineering at the Everest Regroup. And what she's going to talk about is how they, as a company at Everest Group, have focused on their business and what are some of the business outcomes that she's achieved with her experience with us. But before I go to Mona, Larissa, why don't you jump in and talk about why are we doing this webcast? What's the reason for having a Calling Reimagined series?
Yes, so I think right now we're hearing a ton of questions around what is happening in calling. Do people even use calling? And, is there really any innovation there in comparison to what we hear happening, for example, on meetings or maybe other mediums of communication? And I thought it was super important for us to highlight for many companies, calling is still the lifeline of connection to their customers and to many of the emergency scenarios that they have. So it's not easy to just go away. You can't easily replace, the urgency of being able to connect and contact someone, with a meeting invite or with a message where you don't know exactly when they will receive it. So with that, there's a lot of also reimagining of what workflows happen and how we can make those richer, drive higher levels of empathy. Since now we are in a new world, people are used to having video on. So even if it's a phone call, going to a hunt group, how do we enhance all of those experiences with video? And I think that to me is definitely worth a conversation and making sure that everyone's aware of what is now possible and how ready I think many customers and many parts of the world are to this level of reimagining.
Great. Thanks, Larissa. And talking about reimagining, I want to bring Mona into the conversation. Mona, before we jump into how you reimagine calling and why you chose WebEx, can you talk a little bit about Everest itself for our viewers so they can get a better appreciation for what Everest does?
Sure. Nice. Thank you guys for having me on. And to go over Everest itself, Everest Group is a large insurance and reinsurance company. We are a global company. We have about 25 locations in the US, and we have offices in Europe, Singapore, Brazil, Bermuda. So that basically have a large footprint. We have about the fifth reinsurance company in the market. So we do a tremendous amount of business. So that's in a nutshell about Everest.
Great. Brazil, Singapore, and Bermuda, three of the places Larissa and I want to visit you when we can travel again, Mona. But let's get to the business problem. What was the problem you were trying to solve at Everest?
The problem is having so many offices, and we had basically a hodgepodge mix of phone systems. Every region has a different phone vendor. Every region has a different footprint of equipment in their old server room, as it used to be. So it required tremendous amount of maintenance, keep up. Every one of those systems was independent, so there was no integration between systems, especially the global ones. The US ones, we had them on somehow a private network, but it was not extending to the global reach. So that presented a big challenge for us to, one, standardize user experience, two, maintain a lot of equipment, maintain local circuits for every one of those phone systems. So we had to look and see for, what can we do better in this area?
Great. So Mona, one of the things, when I look at the profile of Everest Regroup, that is a typical customer for us when we approach with WebEx calling. Have you faced, and for us, and especially in Larissa's team, when you talk about cloud transformation, we think everybody's on it and everyone's doing it and we're all in the cloud. But at Everest, were there any challenges convincing people to move to the cloud? Was that an easy task, or are people holding on to some of their on-prem mentality, or is there a journey you had to take?
Yes, it was very challenging because one, we have been basically, it's more of a brick and mortar company. Everybody's used to everything on-prem. We were very kind of centralizing all our equipment data center in one place. And as technology evolved, this proved to be really not sustainable and not reliable with weather changes in different regions and get power outages and circuits down. That became a very a very large challenge impacting our business. When Sandy hit New Jersey, we lost our data center for about 5 days. So
Wow.
there were no phone system, there were no email system. So we had to look outside the box and see what we can do better, and and make that transition to the cloud.
Great. Larissa, is that in line with some of the other customers that you're talking to? Is they go through, they think they can't change. Now, obviously, we had a global event that spurred cloud transformation more than anything else with the pandemic. But are you hearing similar things from some of our other customers?
Yeah, I think Mona's description of how every geo or every office or every set of phones are different is very common. And I think the starting point is it is going to be too hard to move all of this and to consolidate all of this into the cloud. I think the biggest challenge, though, is how do you get there? So it's one thing to say, yes, we've made the decision, we're going to go. But then coming up with the plan of per site, per geo, what do you do, and how do you do it without disrupting your business? Because I think that's the most important piece, is the largest concern. I think that's what one of the strengths that we've definitely invested in is how do we make sure that the pieces that are on-prem can stay there and keep up and running, and we can still connect into things like cloud analytics, even if you are still on-prem. And that's stuff that our customers have definitely appreciated is help me get value right now. Even if I'm on-prem right now, help me get value until I make it all the way to this destiny that we are saying is this full multi-tenant cloud offering. We're really excited to see the number of customers that are really jumping in and embracing that, and also starting to see the value that cloud can bring, right? Not only is it the manageability portion, which Mona mentioned, it's just difficult to keep up with all of those things. But it's also now start of some of the consistency of end user experience, the one app that everyone gets to have, operate in, and still use the physical phones that for certain types of workflows they really need. I don't think that world of 100% soft phone is really true for every type of company. And we talk to many, I think, like your company, Mona, where it's like, no, that's too hard of a change for our employees. They're very, many people already believe they're doing a great job at their job. Telling them, no, change everything that you do to this way is a very hard conversation. They're already very efficient at how they do their job. And so this is where I think we're still seeing a lot of people holding on to that phone with dear life.
Yeah.
Mona, I see you're an expert WebEx user because you got your virtual background already up and running. How has that been? You talked a little bit about unified user experience. How critical is the user experience when you're looking at a calling solution?
So basically, my team is focused on user experience. We want to provide a standardized user experience across the board, something kind of seamlessly integrating. So the vision behind changing our calling systems across the organization was we wanted to provide a modern, unified solution across Everest, where the experience in every office is the same. If you are in New York office or the London office, you'll have the same experience, whether it's calling or meeting. And with that said, that where we reach out to several vendors, and WebEx calling as well. We started implementing it when it was still a small business solution as BroadSoft. In some of our locations, it was not extending to globally. But when we heard that it was extending to the global reach now, and it's available mostly in every one of our offices, that was basically an answer combined with integrating with WebEx Meeting, having a secure platform for meetings, especially along with the pandemic, and everyone was relying virtually on everything. Basically, you're meeting every day with, virtually with your coworkers, with your partners, with your business customers. So we had to look for something that is more, collaborative and seamless, similar experience on every platform, whether it's calling or meeting. So WebEx calling was the answer because it provided basically every point on our checklist.
Mhm.
So, that's what made made us go through that. Plus, it was very kind of worked with the business side as well, easy to sell because it was a major cost saving as well. So,
Great.
yeah. So
I'm
from
glad to see. I'm
yeah.
glad to see so much of our strategy is working for you, Mona. That's exactly what we wanted. Cost savings, better experience across calling in meetings, and consistency all the way into the office. Those are probably the top three challenges we hear from most companies. And I think you only really get the full value, as you mentioned, when you step back and look at the entire experience end to end and not just siloed, just the meetings or just the calling or just the physical offices. It's that consistency. The one thing that we always forget when we start talking about these things is what is the cost to IT when they have to answer different calls about different systems in different management portals, different analytics, and just inconsistency across the board is actually very hard to manage. Sorry, Diki,
Yeah.
I just had to jump in because Mona
No?
basically validated everything we've been working so hard for. It was great to hear.
Yeah. No, in fact, I was going to ask Mona, you should weigh in a little bit. We talk about reimagining calling and we treat it sometimes, people think it's just calling, but you brought up a good point about it's not just calling, it's collaborating. So you have a meetings element to it. And obviously, in the insurance and reinsurance industry, there's a whole contact center element to it that comes in as well. Specifically on IT, what was that journey like? I know you brought up, you've been on the platform from the BroadSoft days. You've now migrated to WebEx Calling, which is the newer cloud platform. How has the journey been from working with IT, working with other people? Because not everybody is aligned to the same business outcome. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So it was a major challenge, and most of any change is the challenge is the user themselves. It's a learning curve to and the adoption. But actually, like we had a lot of help from Cisco with the adoption. They had like a lot of resources. We utilized this in our communications. I wouldn't say like it's 100% adopted because to Larissa's point, some people are tied to, I want my phone on my desk. And that was part of the things that, also geared us towards this solution because we had a phone, I would say a modern phone that you can use on your desk. You can move from one desk to the other if you'd like. But in the meantime, you have the ability to fulfill the vision we had in our mind where a modern worker who can work from any device anywhere. You can use it from your mobile device, you can use it on your laptop. If you have a personal computer at home, you can use it on, or if you want to go back to your old phone at the desk, you still have that. So that was basically the experience. We did a lot of training also to get our users on board. And I would say it's still a work in progress because we completed all our US locations by the end of last year, which actually was we accelerated the project because of the pandemic, because we lacked a lot of features on on-prem phone systems, where in basically 2 days, all our IT and had to work hard to transition everybody from an in-office setup to a work from home setup. So the older PBX you have to go as an admin and go do your, call forwarding. You don't have follow me forward features there. That's rich. You don't have an app on your laptop. So we accelerated and we did a lot of migrations of about 6 sites during the pandemic. And it
Wow.
was simple to our users. The people who had their phone forwarded from the on-prem phone system to their cell phone still had the same experience after the migration, the port. Some of them are still, they use the soft client, which is the app on the phone, on the laptop or the mobile phone, but some of them are still using the feature of forwarding to their cell phone. And the people who return to the office, you know what, they find a phone that they can pick up, see the voicemail light on. So it's a full, rich experience, and that's what we were looking for initially when we embarked on this journey.
Great, great. It's always good to talk to someone who has such a strong emphasis on experience. It's something that, we talk about a lot. Everyone talks about it, but I think we need somebody to drive it. Larissa, I want to come back to you and see if there's any additional thoughts. It looks like Mona started out with the business outcomes she was trying to drive, but anything else that you want to share with our viewers on what are some of the things they should be thinking about as they reimagine their own business experience around calling?
I think Mona called out a lot of tidbits of really great knowledge that we have to share with all of our customers. One is that every persona is going to have a slightly different reaction to this. And so even your campaigns might look different depending on the types of users and the way that they use, calling in their everyday life. And so I think that's expected. It's not expected that everyone will say woohoo and we all just jump on, right? And yet when they start to see some of the value, you mentioned call forwarding and just various personal settings. When people realize, wait, I get to change this. I don't have to file a ticket to have this change. It is a huge difference to be very empowered to manage all of the things that you need, whether that is changing your workday, right? Maybe now I'm working different hours. I'm working flex hours, not just 9 to 5. Because of the fact that I have kids at home. Maybe I have a 2-hour block in the middle of the day where I do something differently. You can now manage your phone settings and be able to do that on your own. In the past, you can't change, all of those settings on a daily basis because each one of those is a ticket into IT. And so I think this is just examples where the technology is really enabling a level of flexibility for the employee that they maybe haven't imagined. And yet once they experience it, we're seeing them say, oh, wow, is actually really useful. And then we're getting this kind of embracing of that user experience, as Mona mentioned, as really the top level value. The other thing that I would just recommend is find those fire starters, the people who are super excited, who are seeing the value right away, because they can definitely help you with the overall adoption, whether it be at the site, in a geo. We find that word of mouth recommendation or really testament in the company helps a ton with regards to explaining why bother make a change, right? We don't want to change for change's sake. We want to change because we're getting something out of it. And I think calling those out is really, really helpful.
Great. Well, Mona, I'd like to close with you with a quick question. So do you think you were able to achieve the business outcome you wanted out of this experience?
I would say yes. We are 90% closer to achieving it. I have 3 more locations which we need to get done. That's in Canada and Singapore, as well as we just finished our Dublin and UK sites last week. So with that, we will be concluding our transition. And I think we'll focus from there on more of promoting features and tips and tricks so people can get the full adoption of the service.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks again, Mona, for joining us and sharing your experience as a customer. In this series, what we did was on episode 1, we had Diane Myers talking to Larissa, an outside view as an analyst. Today, we had Mona, who we want to thank from Everest Regroup, who is a customer who has reimagined calling. And then I think in our episode 3, we're going to bring in a few Cisco partners who have been through this journey, both with Cisco and a customer, so you can hear about what's going on in the world of calling. Thanks everyone for watching today's episode, and I look forward to seeing you all in our next episode. And if you have any comments, please comment below and follow us on social media as well. Thank you all.